While the hosts of Sisters in Arms have taken every precaution to ensure that the content of this program is both current and accurate, errors can occur. The hosts assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omission in the content of this program.
The information contained in this program is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantee of completeness or accuracy. The opinions of the guests are not necessarily the same as the hosts.
Welcome to Sisters in Arms. I'm Carrie Ann Auclair.
And I'm Renee Gagney, and together we serve as a Second Amendment resource for our communities.
Today we're going to be discussing our civil liberties and our Constitution and how Bill number HD 4420 will significantly affect our Second Amendment community and all of us in general. Today we have a special guest, Jim Wallace from GOAL, Gun Owners Action League. Thank you for coming.
Welcome back, Jim.
Yes,
Usually it's a pleasure to be here, but I'm not too sure about now.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, before you go, I read something today and I want to
Before I go, I'm leaving already?
No, before you go on with what you're going to say, because I'm not going to be able to interrupt you once you get going.
Yeah,
before you leave.
You've been talking to my wife already, haven't you? Jeez. Okay.
So I read this, and I think it's important to read. For the first time since the inception of the nation, our government is intentionally making the entire populace defenseless. The violent criminal element in Massachusetts is already emboldened by the pro-crime policies of the Commonwealth. It will ring the dinner bell nationwide, and even more dangerous criminals will flock to the Bay State. Police are already overtaxed and outnumbered, and this will ensure that they will never stand a chance. The likelihood of no one responding to a 911 call will become an everyday occurrence. So I read that and I thought, wow, this is really serious. Who wrote this? And then I saw that it was Jim Wallace.
That's right.
So,
and I do want to mention too that we don't normally get political on the show, but I think this is very, very important because it's affecting all of us. And this is education, and that's what we're doing. We're providing education to our communities, and we would be doing a disservice if we didn't. So,
and if you're not from Massachusetts and you think you could turn the channel right now because this doesn't affect you, this will come to your state at some point. So I think it's important that we all listen because no one is immune from this.
Nope.
Yeah.
You're up there.
I'm up, huh?
You're up.
Yeah, this is something I honestly never thought I'd see in this country. And those people who know me, I'm not an alarmist. I don't get excited about stuff when you don't need to be. I'm not a tinfoil hat person. But here we're in a situation that is uncharted territory. And what we have is a legislative leader this time. Usually bills like this are filed by wingnuts we don't pay much attention to. This is the Speaker of the House who's singling out an entire community of people trying to destroy their civil rights. And I'm not afraid to say, this is Jim Crow 2.0, just against a different group of people. And what it is, essentially, is a tantrum. Just like Governor Wallace of Alabama after Brown v. Board of Education. You know, no, Supreme Court's not going to tell me what to do. You can't tell us what to do in our own state. Same thing, same exact thing. The Bruin decision, which was an historic civil rights decision, really only affected about 6 states because the rest of the country understood it's a civil right. We respect it. We may license it, we may do this and that. It's a civil right. If you're a lawful person, do what you want to do. Not states like Massachusetts, California, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Rhode Island. They went on a tantrum and immediately said, what can we do? Now the irony is, there's supporters of this bill in the State House. They really have no idea what's in the bill. But they're telling people, their constituents, well, we have to do this because the Supreme Court said our laws were unconstitutional. So now you're going to make them more unconstitutional? Essentially, whether you're a gun owner, you hate guns, you love them, you want to exercise your Second Amendment, you don't, This will affect everyone in the state because it's going to leave an entire state defenseless. You literally will not be able to leave your home with a gun. Even off-duty police officers are not exempt. And the list of stuff that's now prohibited, it's so open to interpretation that nobody will be able to understand it. You will not, as a citizen, be able to comply with this if it passes. You simply will not. Imagine, use it as an example. All right, people of color, you have the right to vote. But here's 140 pages of stuff you need to read before you can do that. How about the rainbow community? Yep, you can marry anybody you want. But, here's 140 pages of stuff you got to deal with before you do that. Women's rights, right? Yep, equal pay, equal rights. No, but here's 140 pages of stuff you got to go through. That's exactly what they're doing to us.
And then try to understand it, the
Well,
140
nobody
pages.
understands.
Well, Jim, okay, you know I love my big blue book.
The big blue book.
We don't understand what we have right now in Massachusetts.
And
Yeah.
they expect us to
Yeah.
figure
And
that
now we're going to have 141 more pages that make it worse than
Well,
this?
what they did too to make it difficult for the experts is they rewrote every section of law. So for 25 years, even though they're convoluted, we pretty much know where to reference, what section of law to reference for a question. Not anymore. Those sections are all gone.
and you couldn't even amend anything.
So you can't amend this. You can't amend. First time in my career, I've got all kinds of legislators. Jim, you've done this in the past. Tell us what we need to do to amend this. And my answer is, you can't.
It's too much.
You can't fix this. We were lied to through the entire process. First time in my career, I've had a chairman just look in my face and lie to me about what was going on.
Yep.
They used the so-called listening tour as a distraction while national groups were writing the bill for them.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
we went to what, 9 out
let's-
of the 11?
Yeah, let's talk about the listening tour for a minute. So the DC project carries the director of Mass, I'm the director of Rhode Island. We went to so many of these listening tours. There were 11. I personally went to 8 of them.
Yep.
And I feel so betrayed. I literally feel like, what is the point of having a listening tour if you don't want to listen to both sides?
It's like they took the words out of our mouth, twisted it, and spit it out to their own agenda.
Well, how many times did the chairman introduce by saying, we come here with no preconceived notions, ideas, or legislation?
Yeah, we're
His-
taking all this
Which-
information
which
so
was a
we
lot.
can.
Right, his preamble included that the law-abiding gun owners weren't the problem. Yet a 141-page bill affects the law-abiding gun owners.
Only the law-abiding
Right.
owners. There's nothing in there about crime.
Right.
There's nothing in there about mental health or suicide. It is 100%.
domestic violence or anything.
No, actually, domestic violence victims are going to be in serious danger.
Right.
Because they won't be able to carry outside of their home for the most part. It's just going to be so restrictive that there's also pieces of this that there's no way the state's going to be able to do this.
No. And I called my police chief, and he had no idea.
No.
He had no idea about this.
No.
And I sent him another email hoping that, he would come out publicly, because they all need to.
The training mandates, I mean, we already have mandatory training. But,
Don't get me going.
But the training mandates, it is,
Don't get me going, Jim.
number one, there's no curriculum for it, which means all of the national expert groups on firearm safety, their courses are done.
Right.
The state police is going to have to come up with some kind of curriculum. But so many issues with this, the type of course they're talking about would probably be a week-long course. It's going to cost you $1,000.
And who's going to pay for that?
Who's going to teach it?
Right,
Because
and who's
yeah.
going to afford that? Because
So-
now they're saying that, I'm sorry, if you're in the lower class end of things,
It's complete
Economics.
You can't
discrimination.
protect yourself.
It's
Yeah.
discrimination.
Yeah.
There are people that can't afford to take the $125 approved class now.
Yeah.
yeah,
And now
that's-
you're going to
Yeah.
tack on another $900 to meet active shooter and emergency response training, applicable laws related to use of force, de-escalation and disengagement tactics, live fire. I mean, the list goes on and
Yeah,
on.
and that's why we started the
Now,
chapter.
here's the irony of
you know?
that part, right? The people who hate us, because they're just flat out bigots against the Second Amendment community. They don't know us, they don't want to know us, they just hate us. But they want us to be exponentially better at what we do. That's the hysterical part of this, is that they want us all trained like SWAT teams.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, but you won't let me leave my house so I can help.
Right.
You know, if this thing passes, and I've already talked to a whole lot of law enforcement, they're already walking off the job in huge numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to leave. They're just going to leave.
Right.
And what's going to happen when you pick up the phone and you're in trouble? Nobody is there to come, period. They're not coming.
Right.
Right.
And the criminals are going to take over. It's not an exaggeration.
No, and how long do you think it's going to be before they catch wind that the Commonwealth is unarmed?
They're already talking about it. I
Right.
guarantee
Yeah.
you.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're again a soft target.
Yeah.
The whole
The
state.
whole state is a soft target.
The whole state.
One of the things that the Chairman Day refused to discuss, when we first met with him before the tour started, we met with him in the State House. Our trainer, John Green, was there, our public policy guy was there, I was there, and one of his aides said, well, we have the most effective gun laws in the country. I'm like, nope, because I had the report with me. And Chairman Day was adamant. Nope, we're not here to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I remember
politics. Do that outside. It's not politics. Because you keep saying we have the most effective gun laws. But since they were enacted in '98, gun-related homicides are up 111%. How is that anything like an effective gun law? The other thing he said on the tour was, we in Massachusetts have found the balance between public safety and civil rights.
No,
Show somebody the copy of the Second Amendment and show them that book. Where's the balance?
Right.
there is none.
And there's no public safety either.
Right. So my question is, if we haven't had any accidental gun deaths in this state last year before, maybe the year before that, I think in 2020 there was one. What is this 141-page bill going to accomplish?
Nothing.
Nothing. They're just trying to
Nothing.
control us. That's what they're
It's-
trying to do.
When the live fire thing started to come up before COVID, I was at a number of roundtables and speaking tours when the moms were trying to push this thing, and
Jim,
I sit there and
I'm not calling them moms. We're not calling Moms Demand Action moms because
Yeah.
I'm a mom.
That's
That's
right.
right.
I'm not
They're
even
mom.
giving that to them.
Yep.
MDA.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm
Yep.
not. I refuse to call them moms
Because you know
they.
what? Moms demand education.
Right.
We demand
Absolutely.
education.
I don't think that they're playing on that word. We're moms. I'm a mom, and
I-
my daughter came with me on that tour,
Right.
and she pleaded in front of Mike Day for him to protect her, like the legislation is protected, like
Yeah.
the legislators are protected. That's never going to happen. But yet we have a 141-page bill. Anywhere in there does it talk about security of schools?
No.
No, not at all.
And let's not forget that he met with them.
Oh,
Oh, the
okay.
national groups, yeah. But
Oh,
let me
yeah.
go back to the live fire.
Yeah.
I was sitting at a round table that was put on by a friendly rep at the time, and those people were there. I was there. There were some other people there, and I kept quiet. And they just went around the table, and they said, "Well, this is common sense. Blah 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 blah. We just need to, you have to drive a car before you get a license. All this stuff." So when it came to me, the rep said, "Jim, you've been awful quiet." And I said, "Yeah, there's just one question in my head that nobody's answered." He's like, "What's that?" I said, "What problem exists that this is supposed to solve?" And the other side was like, no, it's just common sense. No, you don't put a mandate on a civil right unless there's such a problem that the government has
Exactly.
to step in. There is no problem to solve.
Exactly.
Right.
We've had handgun licensing for more than 100 years. Demonstrate to me where there's an issue.
Right.
And please don't compare it to cars and driving.
Right.
Because in Massachusetts alone, there are only 5 times more licensed drivers than there are gun owners. On average in Massachusetts, 450 people die on our highways every year.
Yeah, from accidents.
1 or 2 from guns. Don't compare us to driving.
Right.
And I always used to joke, When you see a sign on our range that says no texting and shooting, then you can start come talk to us.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I don't
Other
want
than
to,
Charlie, maybe, right?
but I don't want to compare a privilege
Yeah.
to a civil
I was just
right.
gonna, yep.
It's not
Yep.
the same.
You can't. It's not comparable.
No.
No.
It's not comparable. So are we gonna? And this is the one thing. I said this when Maura Healey did her edict in 2016, with no consideration, no discussion, nothing. On the front steps of the State House in front of 5,000 people, I said, folks, similar to what you said, if you live outside the state, if you think, oh, good, it's about time, if they can do this to us, they can do it to you.
Absolutely.
Because the next time, different people might be in power. It's just like what the NRA faced from New York,
Right.
when those politicians actually used their positions of power to threaten every business that comes through New York, whether they're there or not. Said, if you do business with them, you can't do business here. If that's not outright extortion, even the ACLU was like, whoa, time out. What if, in their eyes, what if in the red states, they start doing this to us?
Right.
We got to nip this in the bud. This is serious stuff. This is historical.
And
We've
it's
never seen this
and even with the
before.
retailers, it's like they're attacking
Retailers
us from.
are done.
Oh my gosh.
They're done. They're done. Not only because of the regulations and rules for them, it literally prevents common carriers from shipping anything to them.
Yep.
And even non-residents, if you travel through Mass with a gun, you live in Pennsylvania, you're going hunting in Maine, you have to pre-register your gun and your feeding devices before you come through the state.
Because even feeding devices, everything.
Feeding devices, not just magazines, feeding devices. So anything that feeds the gun, whether it's a pump action, a bolt, doesn't matter. You have to serialize. You're going to have to apply to the government for a serial number, which I'm sure they're going to charge a fee for,
My God.
and then engrave all of your feeding devices, each individually with each individual serial numbers.
Right.
And first
And-
of all,
And there's also a transportation clause to that too.
it's crazy. Collectors are not going to do that.
No.
No.
Period.
No.
I know people that, some would hear this and go, oh my God, they collect World War II guns. They might have 1,000 feeding devices. Some of them are just a metal clip,
Right.
M1 Garand or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But they'll have to, and they're not going to do it.
No.
They're not going to do it. The first time in my career, I'm telling every legislator I talk to, I'm not following this. Go ahead.
Jim,
Go ahead.
I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm telling you, I do everything. I go to so many law classes because they're so convoluted. I don't understand a lot of them because I want to do the right thing.
Now we got to start
But
all over again
I
if this
can't,
passes.
I can't. Some of the guns I have, I won't be able to keep.
No.
My daughter, who isn't 21, can't use my semi-automatic shotgun to shoot skeet with me.
Nope.
My junior, who's 12, he can't do any of the junior programs because he's
That's
12.
one of the insidious pieces about this, other than leaving us all defenseless, is they're literally trying to carve out a generation. Same thing they
Yep.
did in the universities in the
Right.
last 30 years. If we can carve out a generation, it's over, we win. And that's exactly what they're trying to do.
I can't believe. So, I started digging in because I am passionate about the juniors. They should all have a wonderful skill. They get into college, they get scholarships, they go to the Junior Olympics.
And they
It's
learn
amazing.
ultimate responsibility.
Absolutely, and they're fantastic. I mean, to
Right.
watch them shoot is unbelievable.
Right.
And you're going to rip that from them.
There was a great Senator Brewer, he retired a few years ago, just before COVID, and every time he talked on the subject, he said, you show me a kid that's in the shooting sports, that hunts, that fishes, I'll show you a kid that's not into drugs and gangs.
Well, I was just going to say that because
Well,
a lot, yeah.
right, on the listening tour, and when we hit the stop in New Bedford, they were pleading for more money. I mean, they wanted us to go in and teach them
And
safety.
we contacted them and they never
Yeah,
contacted us
never,
back.
someone must have
And
gagged
of
them or
course,
something.
we know, because
Yeah,
you
right.
know firsthand, the state does not spend a dime on firearm safety education.
Nope.
Not
Well,
a dime.
that's how I wonder how the heck they're going to license all these new people that want to exercise their Second
And
Amendment.
does that
They can't.
mean that us, God, the reason why we've been working so hard for
We've
the
been
past
educating
5 years.
hundreds of women for
Right.
license.
And we started the chapter because for $75 a year, these women are getting education. So they're affording something that they weren't able to afford.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and providing education from all different levels. I mean, some women come join our chapters because what? They're domestic violence survivors, or they want to protect themselves, or they're, you know, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is all going to change everything.
Now, if you're under 15 in this bill, you can't take part in training or shooting sports, but you can hunt. But you can't hunt until you take a
Don't you
training
need
course.
training?
Yeah.
Why would you ever stifle education? Why would you ever stifle training for so a 14-year-old can't?
Mm-hmm.
So my 12-year-old son, who's been shooting steel plate since he was 9 and 10, we got to kibosh it for 3 years.
Yep.
And no training.
No training.
And
No training.
So what kind of
It's the reason they don't teach physics in school anymore. Take away the education, they don't know.
Yep.
You know.
Well, what kind of bothers me is the fact that all these listening tours, except for one, they didn't have anybody that was an expert in this field.
Nope.
I think
And-
they
and I
threw
feel
a
as though-
chief on and said, "Oh, there's the 2A guy." That
And they didn't. Some of them don't even know about gold.
no, and they don't even know the laws
Right.
because they sat with them at the state
Yeah.
headquarters.
So you're telling. I feel as though that.
Well, I
this
remember
is
the
same
one,
thing.
where was it, in Brockton, where it was a lieutenant that was on the panel. And he was asked by several people about what happens when you finally arrest these people? What's going on in the courtrooms? And he just kind of put his head
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I asked them,
Yeah,
like,
that's
they're
right.
coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
All these people.
Yeah.
What do you do with the criminals when they come back out again? You arrest them how many more times? How many more illegal firearms are you going to drop because you want them to give you information on the drug dealer? So you let them back out, you arrest them again, and then let them back out and arrest them again.
Massachusetts is
And then you're
so
attacking us.
accepting of violent crime, it's not funny. They talk a great game, but if the criminals are not afraid of us, or even
The repercussions.
jail,
Right.
they don't care.
Right.
You're literally sending a message, and that's why I said in that statement, they're already so emboldened by the policies here. Why do you think they come here to commit crimes? Because they know who cares? They're going to get a
They
slap
just
on
made
the
the
wrist
bad guys richer.
and walk away. You know, so you can't, you know, again, whether you're a gun owner, you hate them, whatever, you cannot underplay how devastating this is historically. It is absolutely an abomination that this would even get to paper in this country, never mind be supported by one of the biggest political leaders in the state.
The worst thing is this was being written up while he was meeting with us
Yes.
during the listening tour.
Yeah.
He lied to
Talk
us.
about a backstabber. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there telling you why this law's not working or this one's not, and if we changed it this way, it would be so much better. And oh yeah, we're not going to change anything. Maybe ghost guns.
And we
141 pages. It hits everything
Yeah.
from soup to nuts.
And
You're-
He lied to his own legislators,
Yeah.
his fellow colleagues, when they met with him. No, this is ghost guns and live fire, don't worry. Okay.
And we all expected at the end of the listening tour that he was going to gather all his troops along with experts in the field and say, okay, now that we had this listening tour, we got all the information, let's sit down and chat. And the whole time he was using us. That's how I feel. He was using us.
Yep. Nope, this is definitely a call to every citizen. What has made this so much worse is COVID. Several times during COVID and after COVID, I was in an interview, and I would tell reporters, the scariest thing about COVID was not the disease. It wasn't even the lockdown. It was government, both state and federal, were desperately trying to find their boundaries, their limits. They didn't find any. They found out America's asleep. We can pretty much
Yeah.
do what we want.
That was a test.
And COVID shut down the State House. So they're all working from home. We are now, what, year and a half, year out of COVID? There's still nobody in the State House.
Yeah.
Right.
So they don't want to deal with the citizens anymore. The House, now, remember, we have a full-time legislature. The House has not been in a formal session in 2 months. Now, I'm pretty happy about that, because when they're in session, everybody should hold their breath a little bit, because you never know what they're going to do. But we're paying them to be full-time legislators. They're showing us we don't need them to be full-time legislators.
Right.
And imagine how much money we could get for the State House?
Well, my question is, I feel like it's a conflict of interest if you're going to take away the education piece for us as instructors to be able to certify people so they can get their license and practice, exercise their Second Amendment. You're going to take it away from us instructors, throw it on the state, and then so what happens when the state shuts down? Who's going to be able to train us?
Right.
Well, the state won't be doing the training. You'll be doing the training.
They're still
But
going to
they-
allow us to do it.
Yes, yeah, they're probably going to mandate it. But they'll issue the certificate, which means if the chief doesn't like you and he notifies the state, you can spend $1,000, go through a week's worth of training, get approved, and the state
And
doesn't
we're
have
the
to
ones that
issue.
train them.
Okay,
We're the
so
ones that know
hold
this.
on a second,
Yeah.
because see how confusing it is? I didn't even understand that. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we can teach, and at the end of our class, we hand them their certificate,
I
right
know.
then and
Yeah.
there.
Because
Yeah.
we
And then
saw
we-
the,
And then
saw them.
we send the roster to the state.
Yeah,
And so now these people are going to have to wait even longer to get their certificate before they can even apply, which
Yep.
will take another
all
40
designed.
days, usually more.
and there's nothing in
designed.
here about streamlining the license process, which Goal has been talking to the Mass Chiefs about for 6 months. And they're on board. They'd love to streamline this process because it's overly cumbersome for them. They don't want to deal with
Right.
this.
So then who's teaching all these active shooter drills and me?
So they're going to give us training to get the additional
Oh,
education?
no, they're just going to give you a curriculum, and then you have to figure out how to qualify for it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So we got,
Can you put something
Yeah,
into my, because I can't, my mouth
we got
is just.
2 minutes
She's doing a
left.
Jacob
I know.
Marley over there.
Breathe. We
on.
have literally almost less than 2 minutes, but
Yeah.
I just want to, I think at this point in time, this bill, a lot of people are looking at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're looking at this going, this is a big joke. This is not going to pass.
Yeah.
Psh, we don't have to worry
I
about
was
it.
I was in a gun shop last week, same thing. Guy came in, and I said, because I made printouts of our summary for the shop. I said, have you seen this? He goes, I heard about it, but I thought it was a joke. No, it's not a
So
joke.
we can't take this lightly.
No,
We all have to.
so HD 4420 is titled Enact Modernizing Gun Laws, but what we call it in our community is Lawful Citizens Imprisonment Act,
Yep.
because
Yep.
that's what it is.
So if you want to learn more about the bill and you want to get more information, just email us at sistersinarms2022@gmail.com, and we'll get you all the information you need. Do not take this lightly. Please stand up, do what you got to do, call your legislator, call your chief,
Join Gold.
join
And I'll
Gold.
guarantee you, your legislators don't know what's in this bill.
Right.
Because the summary they were given was completely bull.
Yep.
Make sure they have our talking points in our summary and hand it to them.
Yep,
Do
we'll
you
give you that
fully
information.
understand this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
Till next time.
Till next time. Keep safe.
Stay
Stay
vigilant.
vigilant.
Well, next time
Train.
it'll probably be a tin cup across the bars.
Oh, God. Thank you for joining.